how would you react to maybe banks? Do you think they will just become infrastructure in the future in a Web 3.0 world?
So I think there are multiple threads over here, which are very interesting, right? The role of the regulator in a Web 3.0 world, the role of banks in a Web 3.0 world, these are all poised to change in interesting ways. So one of the things, if I go back to the discussion that David had chased some time back around a new form of regulator. Um, just like we had centralized players, or we have centralized players in a Web 2.0 world, Web 3.0 is going to be more about creating agents that work on common shared databases and common shared pools, right? And so some of these agents could be market infrastructure. Some of these could be regulatory infrastructure. So we could have, instead of a central government doing all the regulation, we could have decentralized regulation where the government works with this army of regulatory agents that the market is pulling out. And because data is commonly shared and commonly available, there's an opportunity for these agents to work with data in a way that they cannot in today's world. So I think, whether we think about banks and their role, regulators and their role, the fact that we're working with these with a much more open environment in terms of the key assets that drive value in this world, and that these assets do not lie with one central player, that's going to fundamentally change how power looks like in this new world. So even going back to your question about what's going to be the role of banks, I think fundamentally banks will have to think about, we're not going to see a complete shift towards Web 3.0 infrastructure and markets in one shot. We're going to see some kind of an off ramp where we're going to continue having markets and activity in a Web 2 model with some Web 3 infrastructure coming in. So banks need to start thinking about, how do they interface with that? Which parts of the infrastructure gets commoditized? Which parts gets opened out and shared as market infrastructure? And where do they think about new business models? So that's something that, beyond banks, every business that exists today will have to think of in some way as we move towards the Web 3 world.